Saudi Arabia, itself no friend of Hezbollah, has also now pledged $3 billion in aid to the Lebanese army. Well, joining us now is Firas Maksad. He's a political consultant who specializes in the Middle East, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Do you think that the resurgence in violence and tension that we're seeing in Lebanon now is all down to the civil war in neighboring Syria?
Oh, absolutely. What we really have been witnessing over the past couple of months is Lebanon being transformed from a staging ground for the war in Syria, where both political camps in Lebanon, March 14th and March 8th, to which Hezbollah belongs, are supporting different parts in the Syrian conflict, different parties to the Syrian conflict. Hezbollah much more directly by joining the fighting in Syria. So Lebanon is being transformed from being a staging ground to what's happening in Syria to becoming a battleground. I say that because Al-Qaeda has also now declared that it is directly involved in Lebanon in response to Hezbollah's involvement in neighboring Syria. So for sure, what's happening in Lebanon is an intensification in the ferocity and the regular frequency of the car bombs and the assassinations that we've seen taking place.
Now, what about the whole sectarian nature of Lebanese politics and Lebanon itself? And you mentioned the different political factions. How much is the lack of political consensus now in Lebanon also a factor in this and a reason for the lack of security that we're seeing right now?
The lack of political consensus is a significant factor, but let us be very clear here. What is happening in Lebanon is part and parcel of a region-wide civil war pitting a predominantly Sunni camp versus a predominantly Shia camp. It really starts in Baghdad and ends in Beirut. So the Lebanese parties are responsible. As the report mentioned, there is no cabinet in Lebanon. The government resigned many months ago. In the months ahead, the mandate of the president will come to an end, and there is, if we continue to go through the political paralysis which we're experiencing, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to elect a president. So the Lebanese party are responsible, but the regional patrons too, Saudi Arabia and Iran, are responsible. And the fact that Washington has decided to step back from the Middle East in what it calls a rebalancing of its strategic priorities also has an impact. Washington is the underwriter of the security architecture in the Middle East, and its absence from the Middle East surely has a negative effect on the security situation in Lebanon and throughout the region. Now,
what about the long-delayed trial of the men charged with killing the former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri? That's due to begin on January 16th, and as we know, Hezbollah has long accused this tribunal of being an attack against them. How do you think this trial will affect the internal and regional dynamics right now?
I think the absence of justice, not only in Lebanon, but in anywhere around the world, contributes to instability and political tension. What we have in Lebanon is that both camps, but especially the pro-Western March 14th camp, feel like they have become victims of regular assassinations of their leaders with impunity for whoever is carrying out that act. That International Tribunal for Lebanon has come out and named 4 leading Hezbollah security officials. However, the Lebanese state has been unable to arrest these officials, and Hezbollah has refused to hand them over to the Lebanese authorities. That kind of impunity or sense of victimhood, that political divide, is allowing space for organizations like Al-Qaeda and other extremists to take advantage and actually be more present and more active on the Lebanese scene.
Interesting analysis. Firas Maksad, thank you very much indeed for joining us there live from Washington, D.C. A rebel ambush has killed the commander in charge of military operations in eastern Congo. The government says a rocket exploded near the car of Mamadou Ndala, pictured here just a few days ago. Ndala was responsible for securing the defeat of the M23 rebel group in November. Now to the humanitarian crisis in South Sudan. The UN says close to 200,000 people have been driven from their homes. Tens of thousands have flooded into UN camps to flee violence over the past 2 weeks. But humanitarian chief Valerie Amos says the UN is not set up to handle such dramatic rise in the number of displaced people.
The effort with respect to those who have sought refuge in the UN bases We are having food delivered. WFP and other UN organizations are supporting these efforts, trying